I said, right, I'm leaving the organisation, can I have some routing forms, right? Okay. So it was going to be a long because I said I was going to root out, it was a long process, so I ended up putting me on another post while this was supposed to be going on. A lot of stuff happened in that period, different things, but all having to do with me finding me. Yeah, like I took on care of kids. As part of that, I got a certificate as a teacher, so I could work with children, because I saw the way the kids were treated. I said, I don't like it, and I bought them horse riding lessons, so I began teaching children, that's the Sea Org kids, horse riding out at a proper riding centre, and doing stuff, rescuing animals, and a lot of stuff like that. Different experiences. Generally good, because people people couldn't mess with me anymore. You see, so the standard thing of a senior Sea Org officer shouting at you and making you do blah, which is what normally happens. If they came and shouted at me, I'd fucking headbutt them in the nose. Really, that was what was happening. People wouldn't, I wouldn't be violent necessarily, or I was once, but the way I was kicking back at them, says, no, fuck you, this is bullshit, or whatever. Fundamentally, you see, despite the very aggressive nature of Hubbard's policies and the training of the people are supposed to be very aggressive executives, when they're pushed to it, they back down, because they're not actually physically tough people, they're necessarily. So I kind of found my own space, and I kind of built up my own sense of power in myself, my own sense of esteem, to an unusual level for a Sea organisation. So Sea Org members are very oppressed people, and they're operating purely on the power that's vested in them for that moment in time. And the moment you pull that power away, they collapse like fucking water balloons. Just that's actually what happens. It's quite fascinating. But I built up my own self-esteem. It was my own, and it was very unusual. And so people began vesting more power in me and coming to me, like very senior executives, and I began being a support structure for some very senior executives, They got me promoted out of there, which I was in two minds about, but anyway. My own thought process of what was going on at the time, why I didn't just walk out of Scientology, was because I didn't know the answer to the OT levels. I didn't know if Hubbard... I didn't really know if Hubbard was full of shit yet. I didn't actually know that yet. I knew a lot of the stuff I'd disproven, yet there was little bits I felt, within the... and again, I could only operate within the framework of Scientology and the Sea Organisation, but these seemed to work within... And of course they'd work within that framework. I didn't know if they worked outside of that framework yet, you see. And I'd realized that I'd invested so much in Scientology, so much of my life at this point, that could I just dump it without really knowing? And I kind of said, no, I need to find out more. So that's why I kind of stuck it out. Mostly Scientology executives are not run on their own brains, or run on specific programs. So the pre-program actions, you do step blah, and so you're given what's called an actual program of actions to do with a specific outcome stated. You have to study this program, and you have to do the actions to achieve the outcome, right? And there's steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever they are. So, so I'm sent out as a senior executive with my programs. I'm looking at the program, I'm looking at the reality, I'm looking at the target, I'm looking at the actual real world just outside the doors. And I realized it's just rubbish. And the person who wrote this, or the people who had written these programs, hadn't been outside of the cozy little world of Scientology in maybe 20, 30 years. And so they were writing things from a completely unrealistic perspective. And I already knew that there was something odd about that. I said, no, threw them away. And I went out and I went to a bookstore, a discount book chain, and I began to run a deal with them. And I told them I would get them 2,000 books at a very, very cheap rate, 50 pence each, right? And they can sell them for what the heck they want. All they've got to do is to sell it. And it was Dynetics. And your man didn't know anything about Dianetics. You know, fine, sounds great. And of course, it's a huge coup for Scientology UK, because most stores won't fucking even, you know, any store that would put Dianetics up, people would just run away from the store and they'd close down tomorrow. So I didn't tell him what the book was. He didn't know what it was. So our publications are really exciting. All the execs, wow, what's John doing? This is great. This is cool, you know. So I've closed this deal. It's just about to happen. And then this was the guy who runs the chain, the manager of the Midlands chain. His senior boss gets wind of it. Says, oh, what's the book? It sounds great. And he reads Dianetics. He goes, Scientology, no way. And of course, overnight, the whole thing collapses, and I'm just about to get this thing. And I'm devastated. I still didn't really realize how disliked Scientology was. I really didn't quite get it, right? But I was still along the lines of, oh, there's suppressive people in the environment, there's psychiatrists maybe infiltrating the government, right? I also volunteered separately to a number of programs. One of them was the a program called Playing for Success, supported by Aston Villa Football Club. And what I did was I volunteered there as a teacher mentor. And the program they do is they take kids who are failing in school, in secondary school, first year secondary school, and give them a little booster program. And what we were doing little interactive stuff, you know, animation stuff, you know, with all the right gear for animations and computer IT skills and radio broadcasting stuff, you know, all these kind of exciting things for these kids to get, you know, really get them interested, if you like, and really re-engage them in the system, in the idea of education. And I never told those people I was a Scientologist. I did that because I wanted to, two things: build my own profile as an active citizen, but also wanted to see what it was like as a non-Scientologist, actually, you know. And then my eyes were opened with these things. They really were. And I was very active and engaged in this and the broader community. I got myself elected onto an umbrella voluntary operation, which was working with the statutory authorities directly to form a system of integration, a much closer integration between voluntary and the statutory sector, right? And I was right up there at the very top of this thing, and I was, moving my stature up and up and up. Part of my slightly longer term goal was to get myself elected as an MP. That was actually one of my goals. For the Scientology end of things, you see. So that's the idea of having a Scientology CR member elected as an MP in local and eventually national government, you see. It was very much a strategy that they were terribly interested in. So I was getting these, but they were very careful to keep it sort of, I said, look, it's a covert operation, so it was kept covert, so that's what was happening. But my gosh, I was seeing real people, I was seeing the real world, I was seeing people who genuinely were out there really sacrificing to do really substantial, tangible work in communities. And I read another book there, which was a study done in the 90s by a guy called John Duignan, called Dancinger's Britain. It's a fantastic book if you can ever get a hold of it. But he went around during the height of Thatcher's power to all over UK and showing real deprivation of what was happening. But I drew the connection. I said, hang on a sec, that's been going on since, he wrote this in 93 or something. And all that time I've been in the Sea Organization, we've been talking about clearing the planet and making a better world, and our applied scholastics people doing this wonderful work, and our Narcanon people doing all this incredible, all this internal PR that I bought. I thought Scientology was actually doing something effective. And I suddenly realized Scientology is not even touching these issues. Because he talked about some areas, Brixton, which is only just down the road from where I was living in St. Hill, and Brighton, freaking Salt Hill up in Brighton, of real deprivation. I said, I'm thinking, how come you've got this horrible stuff going on right next door to us at St. Hill and we know nothing about it? I wonder if there's something funny going on here with Scientology. I wonder.